بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض
الله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So you remember we talked a bit about three categories of people, and we said that God divides them by maymana, right, mash'ama, and asabiqun. So those that have a good fortune, those that have a bad fortune, and those that are the foremost. So naturally speaking, it should be four groups. Either you're the foremost in sin, or foremost in doing good, or you're, maymana and mash'ama. But Allah only mentions three, always to encourage us, you could say, that you're either good, bad, or you're really super good. And according to Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi, the following, there's 7 rewards in this surah that talk about 7 rewards for as-sabiqun. Okay, 7 rewards. And he says this, أولئك المقربون, this goes to them, the sabiqun, the third group, the foremost, those that were foremost in everything, in good deeds. And they'll also be the foremost and being, that deserving that paradise. So the first thing that we have, I want to make sure I have a tafsir namuna here in front of me to make sure I don't miss anything. Inshallah I don't. Ala sururin mawduna is the first one. So this is as-sabiqun. For surur, couches, or you could say, for example, beds that you can imagine back then how people would sit, but they are woven with ornament. They're decorated beds. So here, do you think, this is not talking about, you can say, just sleeping beds that we eat where we sleep. These are more like couches or type of, a bed that you sit muttaki'in, reclining on them, facing each other, mutaqabilin. You're facing each other. So let's see from Al-Mizan, he mentions that the ones reclining on these couches are those brought near, right, muqarrabun. Face to face is an adverb, mutaqabilin, qualifying the verb reclining. The image of them reclining face to face is meant to convey their friendliness, sincerity of heart, and being, comrades or friends or whatever of each other. Or say, here is camaraderie, I don't know. They do not turn their backs to one another, nor do they reproach one another backbite. So I want you to take yourselves, inshallah, to heaven, and Allah gives us these images of heaven and they're real images. And we talked about the fact that we have ma'ad al-jismani, that it's a human resurrection, and we have a human body. And when you have this human body and you have such a descriptions, these are real descriptions. It's not descriptions that you say, oh, Allah just said it just to say it. These are real descriptions, things that will really happen, inshallah, to us. Because you can complain in the Day of Judgment and say, you said Allah surun mawduna. For example, when you buy a package and, a vacation package, and they don't give you that hotel or whatever, you complain. So in the Day of Judgment, you'll say, Allah, I read in the Quran this package that was forever. It had surur and mawduna. It had muttaqin alayhim mutaqabilin, we're facing each other. Where is it? So we say that from what we understand, this ma'ad is jismani. Really, it's a physical ma'ad, and these are really physical blessings that we'll have. One is maybe they're talking about asrar of khilqa, like because the barriers are removed, maybe they're talking about the secrets of creation, for example. Or maybe they're talking about Allah. Maybe they're talking about the how after the barriers are removed one another, that understanding of Allah that they now have with one another. Maybe they're talking about the sifat of God, for example. These are some. Or maybe they're talking about some of the what happened in the Day of Judgment for them, and how long it took, and how difficult it was, and what they did, what I said, what happened at the Day of Judgment. Because this is heaven. Remember, this is like the last stage, right? So Barzakh passed, the question in the grave passed. Then we see that, for example, Qiyamah happens, all this happens. Maybe they talk about the world and they say, what type of life was that world? That wasn't real life. And that here, as the Quran mentions that the Dar al-Akhirah, the hereafter, is life. So these are conversations that we will have, inshallah, in heaven. Maybe our teacher would say that we have, Sheikh Ahmad al-Mushtahidi would say that we have classes still. He said these discussions that we have, he told the students, we're still going to have these discussions in heaven where we learn a hadith, we learn something, we're going to have gatherings of knowledge. So those that are just coming in late, we're talking about this verse here, that ala sururin mawduna muttaqina alayha mutaqabilin, that the muqarrabin, the closest, one of the heavenly enjoyments of the 7 that we'll learn is they'll be sitting, on couches or beds, which is relaxing, a nice seat, first class seat, business, how better than business, first class, and beautiful with adornments, and they're sitting in front of one another, mutaqabilin, to understand that this is a majlis, this is a gathering, and they're going to be talking to one another. And we talked about maybe what would we talk about with our friends in heaven. They will circulate among them young boys made eternal. Yatufu alayhim. The yatuf is from tawaf. Tawaf means to circle, like we do tawaf of the Kaaba. So circling them, wildan, which are boys, which are mukhalladun. Now, Ayatul Makarim here says that the reason why it says mukhalladun comes from khuld, eternal, always. He says, well, everything's going to be eternal in heaven, but maybe, mukhalladun here means young. So the emphasis that they're young. Young boys, that are eternal, young boys will be serving them. So let's read from Al-Mizan. They will be frequented, yatuf, by immortal youth. Wildan mukhalladun. Wildan is the plural of walad, child, which here denotes a serving boy, ghulam. The verb yatuf, frequent, tawaf, refers to the fact that these young boys will be coming and going in service, he says. Maybe here is just service, coming and going in service. Mukhalladun refers to the fact that they will live forever and remain unfadingly youthful. So here also he says that they are young, they're walad, they're young boys, but they'll always be youthful. Some have suggested mukhalladun is derived from khalad, meaning adorned by earrings. I don't know. So who are these young boys in heaven? Who were they from? Ayatul Makarim gives 3 opinions. There's Mufassirin have given 3 opinions about young people, young boys that are doing tawaf. One is that it is from hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam that these young boys are actually young children, that those that had children and they died and they never reached bulugh, never reached taklif. Because if a person didn't have taklif, they're not going to be questioned in that way, right? In the same way. So they didn't reach taklif obligation, the age of obligation. So they are the children that will be around us, that if somebody lost a child, they'll be serving, for example. That's one interpretation. The second interpretation is that these are the children of the mushrikeen. And these are the children of the polytheists. Because shirk is the worst sin. Intentionally, remember, if a person doesn't know, or they repent, or they did it out of ignorance, that's something else. But a child that is born in a household that they're not Muslim, or they're polytheists, for example, then they don't have taklif either. So therefore, these children are those. There's a Mufassirin give these out, possibilities. And the last of these are that these are not actual individuals from the world. These are, creations for the hereafter. They're just made in the hereafter, young boys that will, serve, and whatever you want, for example, whatever you need. They serve water, or I'm sure we're going to talk about different things. They'll serve food or whatever. They'll serve. Question is, and maybe somebody here can write it, why is alcohol allowed in heaven, and then why is it forbidden in this world? Who can answer this question? So here you see that one of the answers is this: La yusaddauna anha wa la yunzifun. No headache will they have therefrom, nor will they be intoxicated, right? So you see that the mahiyat, the essence of alcohol in this world, is different than the alcohol in the hereafter. It is a heavenly. The alcohol in this world, Quran mentions it to be rijs, or causes dhahabul aql. It takes our intellect. Even when a person drinks one, there's a time they'd say, okay, well, you're drunk. A person becomes drunk. Now they can't judge or think clearly or make the right decisions. Now they say, actually, from the beginning, when alcohol goes into their bloodstream, it starts affecting that decision making from the beginning. And the most important tool we have is our aql, so we can not do something that is haram, we cannot do something that would harm someone else. So la yusaddauna anha wa la yunzifun, which is verse number 19. It's a different type. So one of the best answers is, this is a different type of alcohol. This alcohol that there's no headache. There's alcohol that they will not be intoxicated. Okay, wala yunzifun. In other words, they will not experience a headache on the count of wine, which is what people suffer when they drink wine in this world. In other words, they lose their good sense on the account of drunkenness. So you can't say that when there's two different worlds, that effect that something has in this world will necessarily have that effect in the hereafter. Everything is bad, that is haram, is from mafsada, from corruption. There is corruption in alcohol. But how do you know that it would affect you in the same way in the hereafter, which is a completely different world? So one is that alcohol is different. Two is that world is a different world, and the effects, because everything is haram for that effect, so those effects will not be in there. There's not going to drink, for example, alcohol, and there's going to be a big fight or rumble and having people hitting each other and drunk fighting, for example. So it doesn't have that, it's a completely different world. Third, this is the world of taklif. This is the world of testing, and there is the world of reward. So it's a different type of world. Okay, so this is the last part of this. La yasaddun anha wa la yunzifun. So it's a different type. So then we're going to go in later on, inshallah, next week to the fourth and fifth pleasure of heaven. But what we understand from all this, remember, just to review, we went over a reward in heaven that is sitting together in like fancy couches or beds, sitting next to one another, having conversations. Very fun, very good. We'll be seeing each other, inshallah. We're going to have servants for us, or young boys will be serving us. Whatever, you don't have to go and get something. They're going to be bringing it for you from the stuff here. And there will be alcohol that will be in a good way, and that will be no headaches or intoxications. So what is the philosophy, you think, of Allah telling us of these, heavenly rewards in this world? It is so that we can wait and we can learn to, control our desires. And one of the most efficient ways is to say, look, you'll have those things, those joys that you like, speaking to others, having alcohol or whatever. If it's tempted, if a way for you to tell yourself, I'm not going to have it, so I'll have it in heaven, for example. That's why you see sometimes in the hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam, they're so rewarding that if a person, even if it's interesting hadith, even if he takes away himself from alcohol just because, from iman, just because it's bad, Just because there's a health disadvantage, he'll be rewarded in the hereafter. So when you hear a reward, this causes you to be patient and say, okay, look, I'm only going to be in this life for 50, 60, 100 years, but instead, I'll have all this reward. So Allah tells us to encourage us to do more. Sometimes there'll be ayahs of Quran that will fear. So we have to be careful. Be very careful. This is what happened. Then there's verses of heaven in the description, which is, Surah Waqiah has. There'll be descriptions of heaven to say, look, this is what you enjoy. So for some people you just say, okay, going to heaven, Allah will satisfy you. Okay, that's one way to motivate you. The other way is, look, there's going to be these 7 in the surah, 7 types of rewards that you'll get, and it'll be amazing. There'll be your friends, there'll be servants, there'll be couches, there'll be beds, there'll be reclining, it'll be great, but you have to work for it, right? There'll be work for it. In this world, we always work 30 years to get for that retirement and for that ease. So Allah, in a way, is telling us, work hard in this world, and there's going to be this retirement that they're not going to steal your Social Security money. They're not going to, 401k is not going to crash with the stock market. You just have to be good, and it'll be guaranteed for you. You work hard, there's going to be this retirement for you for eternity. So that's one of the ways that Allah encourages us to be good people, is by telling us, wait, don't do harm to others here. Be careful, don't drink this substance. Don't do this. Don't meet with evil people here, waste your time here. You'll be doing that in the hereafter. Work hard here. This is the place of cultivation. This is not the place of bearing the fruit. The fruit will be bared there, and this is one of the best ways. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء